All right, hey you guys, how's it going? This is Professor Vit, and I'm here to just crank out a quick little video for you guys. Remember, we worked all the problems that are going to be on the exam already in class, so the difficulty for you will not be remembering them, but so much remembering how to do them, right? So I wanted to work a couple more examples here because I think they're illustrative. And I think they'll be helpful. So again, if you don't have time for this video, I think you'll be fine on the exam anyway. I've reproduced the rules that we have here. This one is actually called conjunction. I'm going to go ahead and work these for you. I don't recall how to work them. It's been a while, but that should be reassuring to you guys that you remember that I know how to do. I'm remembering how to do these, and I've calibrated them so that you should be able to do them within the allotted time. So let's go ahead and start here. Remember, we always want to start with, low-hanging fruit. In other words, we want to start with the stuff that we think we can handle and that we think we can do immediately. So we don't need to know where we're going with our conclusion, but these are our four premises here, and then this is our conclusion, this thing that we want to prove. When I look at this proof, the first thing that I notice is lines 2 and 3. And what I notice on lines 2 and 3 is that B implies K and K implies M. Immediately, this should suggest hypothetical syllogism right here, this rule, right? And the idea is Bob is talking to Kiara, Kiara is talking to Monique, so Bob is talking to Monique. So I'm going to go ahead and put in here B, and I'm going to do, instead of a horseshoe, I'm going to do M. It's the same thing, but it's a little bit easier on my keyboard to do that. So I'm going to do 2-3 high school. All right, so that's our first step, and it's important to know that I have not yet come up with exactly how I'm going to derive my conclusion here, T implies M. That's often going to be the case when you're working proofs, and you shouldn't be worried about it if it is, right? Just keep looking for low-hanging fruit and try to work the proof. So, for some reason, it's acting a little funny on me. Sorry about that. Now, I've derived B implies M here on the 5th line. Always when you complete the line of a proof, you want to ask yourself, is there something I can do now that I haven't been able to do before? And when I look at line 1 and line 5, I see it. And hopefully when I draw your attention to it, you can see it too. Notice that I can do modus ponens on line 1. All that line 1 is a big conditional, right? This thing implies this stuff. Well, it just so happens that the conditionals parts are themselves conditionals. So the antecedent of the conditional in line 1 is itself a conditional. I've built that conditional here on line 5, so I can bring down T implies S by regular modus ponens. I'm going to go ahead and do that. T, implies S, and my rule there is 1-5 modus ponens. Remember, you've always got to tell your grader or your reader how you derive that line. So every line should have a little citation, the lines to look at and the rule being applied. All right, so now I've got my T implies S, and I'm going to look at my conclusion. I don't need to at this point, but I'm going to look at it, and the conclusion is T implies N. Well, when I look at T implies N, I see that I have T implies S, and I can already see the conclusion, how I'm going to get there. Maybe you can't, but you should stop and ask yourself, if you don't see it right now, is there something I could do with line 6 that I couldn't do before? And there is. When I look at line 4, I see S implies N. Well, remember, we did hypothetical syllogism. The solution to this proof will come from another application of it. T implies S, S implies N, so T implies N. So that's going to be 4-6 hypothetical syllogism, right? And that's your solution right there. So this was a nice, short, clean proof that exercised your understanding of both hypothetical syllogism and modus ponens. So I actually detected that I had this written down wrong, so I corrected it. All right, here we go. So the same thing, the same rule always applies. When you start a proof, you want to look for low-hanging fruit. And by that we mean just a straightforward application of the rules. If you look at lines 1 and 2, right, you can see modus ponens. The way it looks is, if I'm in San Francisco then I'm in California. I'm in San Francisco, therefore I'm in California. So that's A implies C. So the way I derived it here was by looking at lines 1, 2, and applying modus ponens. Now, I don't know what my conclusion is yet, but I'm going to take a peek. I see the conclusion is not A. And you could immediately at this point see that you're going to get the conclusion by looking at lines 2 and 3, or you could just continue to apply rules in a straightforward way and discover that you have gotten your conclusion. So the way that I look at it is I see line 2 and I see line 3, and I just see an application of the rule modus tollens, right? If you're in San Francisco, then you're in California. You're not in California, therefore you're not in San Francisco. And so I do that here. If you're in San Francisco, then you're in California. I'm not in California, therefore I'm not in San Francisco. And that's going to be lines 2, lines 3, modus tollens. Okay, so those are two relatively straightforward proofs. I would characterize these as easier proofs, of which there will be some on the exam. So remember, if while you're working the exam you get stuck, take a break and move on to another proof. You may just be on one of the harder proofs, you're not sure. I encourage you guys also to review my other two videos covering all the rules of implication that we're going to be using in the exam. There are rules of implication 1 and 2. Okay, you guys, I look forward to you guys doing super well on the exam. I will see you guys tomorrow.